Hi everyone. I'm Gal Sagie, CEO of Hypernative. Hypernative is an on-chain security and risk prevention platform. We help protocols, chains, bridges, and asset managers prevent all sorts of risks. I'm going to present a little bit of an unpleasant talk, but it will end with an optimistic vibe, so don't worry. So I'm going to talk about at Hypernative. We usually detect hacks and exploit in protocols before they happened. So in the last around year that the system is operating, we have seen a lot of hacks and exploit in protocols, and usually we try to help them, and even if they're not a customer, we try to go to their Discord channel and try to tell them about it. That experience basically taught us a lot of insights about how and what to do when you get hacked, and I'm going to share that with you. So I think the first advice is to not get hacked. I think there are various tools and products and procedure today that you can deploy where a lot of people are not deploying yet. I think that we see that audit alone is a very important first step in the protection of the security, but it's not the only thing that you should do. If we look at every industry, when it comes to security is always a layered approach. Like you don't use one solution, you use a combination of different solutions together in order to get protected. And today there are various real-time monitoring solutions, bug bounties, post-incident prevention packages, and things that can help you be safe. So think about it when you deploy your security budget, essentially. The next thing that I wanted to speak about is postmodern thinking. So postmodern thinking is essentially a method that helped me personally a lot in project management, in a lot of other areas, where the idea of postmodern is that you think something bad is going to happen, like you're imagining that something bad has happened, and then you go backward and think what you could have done to essentially prevent that bad thing from happening. So one example when related to hacks and exploit could be, okay, my protocol got hacked. I am trying to wake up, the hacker start draining my TVL, and I'm trying to wake up like 7 people that are part of a multisig in order to pause the protocol, and I can't get them awake because they are in different time zones and so on. So this thinking could lead you to create maybe an emergency pause or emergency processes. Even the hack itself is something that you should be planning for. Now, it's not a pleasant thing to think that your protocol or project is going to get hacked. But if you do this thinking when everything is calm and you know what are the things that you need to do and who are the people that you want to invite to the war room and what are the actions that you might want to do, it's a lot easier when something bad does happen. And this is something, by the way, that because we gained a lot of experience in, if anyone needs our help, again, free of charge, it's something that we do voluntarily. We are happy to brainstorm and think and do this plan with you. So after a hack happened, I think the first thing and the most important thing is to remediate the problem. So identify the root cause of the hack. A lot of times there are protocols that are multi-chain, and then one protocol, one chain gets hacked, but you might want to apply or pause the other protocols at the other chains. You might want to understand what went wrong. A lot of times we work with 2 projects that the hacker actually left some leftovers inside the contracts after the hack, so they could regain privilege access. And these are things that even if you think you are fixing something, then make sure that you audit and look at the fix very well and that nothing has changed. I think the next part is usually like creating a war room, essentially creating like a channel, Telegram group or a Slack, being able to invite all the relevant people that can help you with the tech. So your team members, people from your security team, from your audit, from your real-time vendor, maybe from the security of the chain, maybe some famous white hat hackers that can help. So be able to have all of these contacts ready, and then you can invite them to the war room. And of course, be careful who you are inviting there, because you don't want to invite people that you don't really know. Another aspect that I see some project failing is after a hack has happened, how do you communicate that to your community? So I think getting hacked is a stressful thing. You're not feeling the best after your project got hacked, and a lot of funds are stolen. But you need to, and there are a lot of unclarity at this point, right? Like you don't really know a lot of things, like a lot of unknowns at this point. But your community are also stressed, right? Like their money that they invested in you is lost. They don't know what is happening. They are not in the war room, so they're not getting the updates. It is important, again, not to disclose everything because you don't know who is in the community right now. A lot of times the hacker might stay or have some connection in your Discord or social media channel. But it's still very important to like set, for example, what I would suggest, set like times, periodic times that you say, okay, in 2 hours I can update you on the status of what's going on, and that will keep people more predictability in this unpredictable scenario. The next thing that usually the project will do is trying to communicate with the attacker. So the attacker mindset, and it's important to note, is attackers are humans as well. They are stressful. After they've done, especially if they're first time and if they're unexperienced, they get a huge rush of adrenaline because they just stole a lot of money. They are afraid the police is going to knock on the door. So it's not like their life is all roses and flowers. So it's important to basically leverage that mindset and try to communicate with them as soon as possible and hopefully maybe negotiate a deal. Communication with an attacker, what I would suggest is usually to create a one-time email address or a social account, and then send them an on-chain message saying to come back to you. You will get some spam from people that are pretending to be the attacker, so it is important to do to verification process, where essentially you ask them to do something, like send some amount of money back to a wallet address that you decide, so you can understand if they do come back to you, who is the one. And of course, again, this process needs to be limited in the exposure because, again, attackers are stressed. You are counting on them to do mistakes at this point, and you don't want to give them any confidence on where you are in finding them or where you are in knowing who they are. The next concept is to identify the attacker, and this is something that you probably should leverage an experienced security vendor that knows to do that. But essentially, attackers, when they do an attack, they leave breadcrumbs after the attack. And these breadcrumbs could be from social media, it could be from GitHub, it could be from accessing your front end or chain or wallets that they use. So attackers in the end, in order to do the attack, had to also communicate and do things with your off-chain sources. And they leave, of course, their identity by this communication. And there are methods today to essentially gather that data from, before the attack and maybe a bit after the attack, understand anomalies and actually try to identify and find clues to the hacker identity. This is a process that someone that knows how to do it and verify anomalies know to help you with that. That will increase, of course, the chances of you recovering the funds. So again, I suggest that you consult with someone that knows how to do that. Regarding, so I don't know if a lot of people are familiar, but there are companies that are essentially selling post-incident packages. These are incident response packages that if something goes wrong, they help you with everything that is after the hack. They help you with communication with law enforcement agencies. They help you to do all of these steps that I mentioned about understanding the attacker, tracking the stolen funds. One of them is Chainalysis, and Hypernative partner with that packages. I think it's important that you are familiar with these vendors and that you get, learn about their offering and what they provide. I think another aspect that I see sometimes people missing that I think is important. In the end, your community is your project. These are people that put their money in your projects. And I think I see a lot of times people that don't communicate well about the incident, that don't give the right answers. So be mindful of how you communicate the situation and really understand that again, they are as damaged, maybe not as you, but they are also damaged, and they also, you want to gain their trust in this process that you're doing the right things. So I want to end with some optimistic slide. So this is a research that we have done at Hypernative, where the idea of the research was to find if there is something to do. Like there are a lot of hacks, as you know, like every week we hear about a new incident. And we really wanted to figure out if there is a way to understand signals of an attack, like finding an attacker in a high accuracy manner minutes before the first hack transaction. And I think that what we found, which was very interesting, that this is actually very doable if you look historically, and we looked years before on Ethereum at least. And we found out that around 98% of the hacks and exploit that happened in the last year could have been detected several minutes before the first hack transaction. And what this means is if these projects had the capabilities and the preventive measures that could have been triggered, these detections could be connected to them, and the hack could have actually prevented. So I think we should all, be familiar with these solutions and explore them as well. Thank you.
Any questions?
There is one.
Yeah?
Hi, nice talk. When you talk about leftovers from the attacker, could you give some examples of what those are?
Yeah, so think about when an attacker, do an attack on a protocol, they need to investigate it. So one example could be is that they clone the GitHub repo of the project. Now think about cloning a GitHub repo. It has, and again, I'm giving an example, and there are many other examples. Cloning a project usually from a development process is something that is very, steady. You can see the developers, they're cloning the project, they're pushing, so you'll see a set of IPs, that are doing this action, where you'll see a subset of IPs and locations that are anomalous in this behavior. So the idea of detecting an attacker is basically, limiting with all the data that we have, all the data points, the IP, and basically trying to find some clue. IP of a user is essentially something that is mostly good enough to try to locate the location and hopefully with the law enforcement help get the identity of that person. So that's one example.
We are over time.
Ah, thank you.
Maybe after we can.
Yeah.
You can just interact after.
Yeah, answer question outside.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.